This is Roger Struckoff with Syscon TV, Day 3 at Cloud Expo East in New York. We are now joined by Cory Hamilton with Dyn. Thank you much for joining us. And you want to talk about internet performance, I think.
That's right. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're talking about internet performance today. We've talked to a lot of people here this week that they're using tools to monitor inside their networks. They know the value of their websites. They know how important it is that everything is always up and running, right? Everybody's able to connect to them, see their content, buy things if it's a commerce type of site. And a lot of them are using application performance monitoring tools so that they can see what's going on in the application and determine, there's certain issues, where can they make adjustments, how can they improve that. A lot of them also use network performance monitoring tools. So within our own network, what different factors are coming in. We're actually taking a look outside of their network. So a lot of these companies, they draw this cloud and they write internet on the cloud. And it's sort of like, we're just accepting that this is, nothing we can do about that. We're just going to take whatever we can get out of it, and we're going to hope for the best. And what Dyn's able to do with our internet performance and our internet intelligence is we're able to give companies visibility into what's actually going on in that cloud. Because when it really gets down to it, everything in that cloud and everything that's going to affect somebody's experience from when they request your website to when they finally get there, all of those touch points are owned by some company somewhere. And they're making decisions on how they're routing your traffic, and they have relationships that determine who they hand it to and where. And you need to have visibility into that to make sure that your customers are getting to you in the best way possible.
Yeah, it's interesting because the internet wasn't originally developed to do all this, and I think people do take it for granted without maybe fully understanding. It's not exactly like a hard wire from you to where you're going. It's not exactly point-to-point communications, and there are issues there. Exactly. But that's sort of what you're there to solve, I think. In addition to that, how do you see business? It seems like things are really picking up with cloud computing. We've been doing this show for several years, but it seems like just the last few months. Are you seeing that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, everybody's moving to the cloud, it seems like. Either they're moving a portion of their infrastructure to the cloud, or they're moving everything. And that's another thing that we can really help with. So we actually collect about 5 billion data points every day about what's going on the internet. So we have 1.5 million IP addresses out on the internet that we're monitoring for latency and availability and all that. And we actually have these collectors where we're getting this data into all the major providers as well. So companies like AWS and DigitalOcean and SoftLayer. So we actually have visibility into what's going on there, and we can help companies as they begin to do this transition to the cloud, make sure that they're choosing the right providers based on the markets that they need to get to. If they're already in the cloud, we help them make sure that things are still going smoothly. Maybe they're expanding into a new region. Are the same providers you're using in North America and EMEA going to be the best in, say, Brazil or India? Right. So we provide a lot of visibility into that. And then we kind of approach it like a life cycle process. So people take a look, they can take a look at it at the planning stage if they're really just figuring these things out early on. But then there's also the constant monitoring, and there's constant optimization, because the reality is all of these providers, whether it's cloud providers or CDNs or really anything else, they're innovating so quickly that whoever's the best today may not be the best a year from now. And you can keep on top of that and make sure that you're continuing to get the best out of all of these and the best bang for your buck.
I tell people, look in the sky, look at real clouds, see they change. There's a real dynamic aspect of what's going on here. And again, I think that you're coming in where a place where customers may think they're taking things a little for granted, and you can do a deep dive in there. One of the things that you mentioned about different providers in different areas, also, with your customers, are there a lot of sort of like customer-facing websites and spikes and people coming through?
Yeah, absolutely.
And globally, that must really impact what they're doing and what you do for them.
Yeah, it absolutely does. I mean, like you mentioned, there are traffic spikes, there are events that go on, and they all affect, however your site's going to perform for people in whatever regions these spikes are occurring. And that brings up another good point, which is the redundancy of it. If the routes to get to your website become overloaded, what other alternatives do you have? If your cloud provider isn't able to handle this capacity for some reason, do you have a redundant solution in place that's also going to serve that market well? So that's something that we can actually help people to understand. And then we actually have a control aspect of it as well, where essentially what we're doing is we're using this intelligence to route companies' traffic to the best location. So if your endpoint goes down in one region, we can send you somewhere else that we know is going to perform equally well.
How do people find you? What's your URL?
It's www.dyn.com. That's DYN. So
can't beat that. And besides the advantages you offer, why they should contact you, are there people that may not be aware of why they should contact you, and how do you break through to them? How do you get through to, you have a problem that you may not know?
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of that is, coming to these types of events and talking to people, because we said there's sort of this perception still that we're trying to work through. There's a lot of other providers who still just draw that cloud and write internet, and we're really trying to get people to realize that's a real thing. There's a lot of value there. If you learn how to use it, it can actually become a competitive differentiator for you. So a lot of it's education around that piece.
Yeah, I think so. It's a good thing you have a short name, because there's a lot that people need to learn from you. It's good they can find you easily. We've been sitting here for a few minutes talking to Cory Hamilton with Dyn.com, D-Y-N, as it says right there, .com. Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you for watching. For Syscon TV, this is Roger Struckoff.
We don't at this time.